Welcome, Papa Techie lovers. It's been a minute. I have here in front of me the new Haven Spectre. Let's take a look. All right. This is the Haven Insulated XL True Level Pad, 30 by 80. This also appears to be the Silpoly 20D tarp. And this appears to be the Haven body. Okay, so we've got the Haven pad, the Haven Spectre, and the Spectre Silpoly. And we've got some instructions on how to put this together. It'll be easy for anyone to do. And then for comparison, I actually have the original Kickstarter Haven and stuff over here. So let's get these weighed in. So we've got the Spectre Silpoly. That's coming in. If I can get this all up on there. That's the thing about Silpoly. It's kind of, 1 pound, 1.1 ounce, 484 grams. Yep, 484 grams, slippery stuff. Looking at the original Haven, Silpoly was 353 grams on 12.5 ounces. So the original Haven Silpoly is lighter than this one. Of course, this one, there's more material with this one. If you see his videos, it actually wraps around the hammock. The original one, original, more heavy duty one was 1 pound, 2.9 ounces, 537 grams. So this is definitely the heavier of the bunch. All right, taking a look at the spreader bars. The new spreader bars are carbon fiber. So we're looking at 4.3 ounces, 4.2 ounces, 120 grams. The original bars that came with the original Kickstarter was 215 grams, 7.6 ounces. So definitely a much lighter option. Spectre straps and hardware. We have some stakes, some guy outs, different types of guy outs. There's 2 types of guy outs, but let's measure the straps, the stakes, and the carabiners. 13.5 ounces, 382 grams. Now the original hardware with the original stakes, straps, guy outlines, and carabiners came in at 1 pound, 4.4 ounces, or 577 grams. Now, looking at just the body here, let's see if I can get this on here. Here we go. Roughly about 1 pound, 5.4 ounce, 608 grams, sack included. The original Kickstarter Haven body, 2 pounds, 3.2 ounces, 998 grams. Definitely a weight saving. And then looking at the insulated pad, this should be the this is the heavier of the bunch, the R5.3. This is coming at 2 pounds, 10.5 ounces, 1,204 grams. So that's definitely the heavier of the two. Where the original one, the 3 season, was 2 pounds, 1.1 ounce, 937 grams. So take that with what you will. Back to the scales here. Putting this whole thing on here, this whole kit and caboodle with the additional hardware, extension, stakes, and guy outlines. We're looking at 6 pounds, 2.1 ounces, or what is that? 2,781 grams. Now, I do have the R value winter in here pad, so that's the R5 plus value pad there. But man, just wanted to take a minute just to say what awesomeness, running the same theme throughout, thinking about the package, putting it all in one system. I mean, you have to think that if this was a gathered end, this would be your quilt. So however your quilt folds up, and this would be the tent body. So it's pretty comparable actually to a gathered hens. And you may or may not even need to bring the stakes of the guy out because of the way the hammock can toggle into the body. So, you know, you can just run without it, and then if it gets crazy, you just toggle it to the body. Don't even necessarily need any tie outs or stakes. So you could just run with this setup right here. So I think there's much to be said about how he's integrated this theme throughout. He's thought about every little detail through and through. So just something to consider with this Haven. Okay, now we're back in the backyard in the hammock lab. Setting this up should be relatively easy. These came attached to the hammock body right here, the carabiners. I just took them off. Already I noticed that the end pieces are definitely lighter. Now this hammock body uses what they call Monolite. It reminds me of the cloud fabrics. And it's my understanding that, you know, they did have some sort of partnership with the materials. I know that at least the tarps came in two different types. One was a Dyneema tarp and one was a Silpoly. That's what we're going to look at, the Silpoly today, because frankly, I just can't afford that Dyneema. I know it's been a minute since I've been posted. I've been kind of busy, got a lot of things going on. You know, son joined the Scouts, so I've been doing a lot with that and other stuff. But just so you can see this Monolite fabric, it's a ripstop fabric, but it's a see-through and probably somewhat breathable. Now they do have these carbon fiber poles. On my original video, I had some Ruder Licuros carbon fiber poles to replace the originals. These are pretty sweet. Carbon fiber is really strong. Now this Spectre is still the wide version, so you'll probably get a much better lay in that as far as if you got issues with shoulders. These are the Whoopie slings. They call them Spectre straps. So basically you just take one, put it on one tree, and one put it on the other tree, and hook the hammock up. Inside an extra bag here, this is the underneath sling for holding gear. And then these are actually extensions. So they're daisy chain extensions, which is quite interesting. So they included some. So I got the hammock body hung up, and my initial impressions are it's kind of like a look. The size of it is like a winter sock for a regular gather hammock. These Whoopies are probably amongst one of the lightest, easiest I've seen for at least aftermarket hammocks. Now, one thing I will say about Whoopies is if you're used to hanging your original hammock Haven in between tight spans, like this tree set here is a tight span. Something that gathered in hammock folks always are looking for are trees that are farther apart, because generally speaking, we're trying to get a different lay than the Haven. The Haven's more of a flat lay, whereas the gather is more of like got the foot end higher than the head end. And they do recommend a little bit of angle on this, but because this one has a adjustable strap, that might not necessarily be the case where you could just hang it flat, and if you need to elevate a little bit, you can use that strap. But what my point is, when you're using Whoopies, generally speaking, Whoopies require a bigger span in between trees. So I've got the Whoopie adjustable knot pretty much on the tree. These are very nice. You know, it's the am steel, super strong. You know, Whoopies are easy to use. You just kind of pinch this to adjust and slide. But with Whoopies, again, you got to have a little bit of a bigger span than you would normally for, like, say, the original Haven or if using any other suspension. You don't really have to worry about tarp height because the tarp is basically the same size as the ridge line of the body. And then looking here again here at the Monolite fabric is see-through for sure. Got a regular gathered hammock and hammock using the same material. It's great for summer for sure. And of course, with that tarp locking yourself in, you'll probably be fine in colder weather too. Being that this is the wider, there should be less issue with shoulder squeeze. And then you can also kind of see here how there's some additional support sewn into the bottom of the hammock. continuing that same sort of arch support theme throughout. So you got the primary arch support that comes down from the ridge line, and then you've got individual arch supports that come through. Honestly, my first impression is like, wow, this is kind of like what I would have hoped the original Haven would have been like, but understandably so, just breaking into the market and getting feedback. This is very interesting. Let's continue on. Okay, a couple of things I've noticed. This is the foot end. So the bug net, or I guess the Monolite cover, you do have double zips on both sides, and you can undo it to the point where, you know, you can roll it back, kind of like a convertible car. And then another look here inside of the support structure. You can kind of see how things are sewn into the end there, and it's sort of connecting to that gray mule tape. I don't know if that's mule tape. Looks more like some version of straps that Dutch would sell. I'm not sure exactly what that is, but I've seen it on other tree straps. Now you can see here that the bottom is essentially that same Monolite, so I would take precaution if you were to set it up on the ground, because, you know, it does showcase that you can do it in tent mode. At least have a tarp underneath it, a heavy duty one, or some type of bathtub floor that you might have bought aftermarket. Now I've got the carbon fiber poles running through. You thread them through these loops here, and then they go in the ends in these little pockets. These little pockets, they're double stitched. I'm not exactly sure what they are. They're kind of like leather, faux leather, but they're double stitched. But how well they hold up remains to be seen. And you have on both sides, so you do have some storage. Now I would be cautious with carbon fiber and the tension on these bars. But putting too much in here that's super crazy heavy, or never pull on these, because they could potentially rip out or break. They're more like for the pressure this way is what they're best at. So don't do a lot of pulling on it or putting anything heavy in there, and you'll be good to go. This is the R5 5.3, I think, and let's get that inflated. Okay, we're back. Now we can really see the Haven start to take shape. Spectre with the pad in there. Pad's got these baffles, got a nice pump mechanism there. Now the stuff sack is pretty cool. It's a pump stuff sack. It worked really well. It took about maybe 15 bagfuls to get this thing inflated. It also came with a patch kit inside, so that's pretty neat. And then of course the pad tucks in these little pockets on the end there to keep it in position, so each one has its own position. And then in the end, of course, we've got these little toggles that are for the tarp, and they pop out more with the bag in there. One thing I noticed is there's no air vents like in the original. Probably not needed, considering the Monolite is probably breathable fabric. Also, we still have at the top here a set of toggle ties. 2 sets, one for each side, so you could tie up your netting, well, not your netting, but your fabric here. Also, we've got the mule tape running through. It's stitched here and stitched there all the way up to the tarp end. So it's this tape here all the way across. So here on a hot day like today, I just took this top off. It's still connected, but just stuffed it here inside of there. Now this whole thing is a 30-inch, so this is a big pad. It's a 30 by 80. Okay, we are inside, and this is what it looks like without the tarp on. You can see down there in the foot end. Now the quality seems pretty good. I will say it was a little nerve-wracking to get in it at first, because everything is so dainty, it's just like as you would expect from ultralight type of stuff. They've chosen the smallest things, and that's another reason why I'm a little bit kind of like, wow, the craftsmanship is pretty good, because when you deal with slippery, dainty stuff, it's hard to have good craftsmanship to put it together. But yeah, it's definitely a flat lay. Look, I'm sweating already. This pad is way too hot for right now. I'm gonna check out this reclining thing. Yeah, so this recliner piece, you can see here, flat, and then it goes up. That is pretty cool. And it kind of keeps your head up without you sliding down per se. So I like that. And it doesn't affect the zipper function at all. See, there it is, all zipped up. You can definitely see that. And then here's the gear bag underneath. Now I don't know what it's like with me in it, how much that gear would push into it. Like how much does it stretch out, what stuff's in there, what's laying there. That remains to be seen. That's still cool to have. Taking a look at the hammock Haven Spectre with the Silpoly tarp. Get you guys a nice view of that. Now, I'm not going to get into minutia of like setup instructions. Derek's got a lot of videos out there already on how to do that. It's more or less my first impressions. So this is kind of going to add that wind protection that you would need if it's cold outside, super stormy, windy, rainy. You could like really batten down the hatches. It's got the toggles down here, as I mentioned. These toggles just toggle right onto the rain fly itself. Or if you want to pitch out the fly, you pull the fly out and pitch it just like any other tarp. And then also in the middle here, if you're battening down the hatches, it has these clips that attach to these rubber bands to help keep the center from flying away. And as you notice, he's got some seam sealed tape here now. That was an issue before in the old hammock. It actually looks like it's glued on or heat sinked on or whatever. But before that would leak through and then it would saturate you. So glad to see that's fixed. Also, another interesting thing here, and this is why this Silpoly weighs more than the original lightweight Silpoly potentially, is it's got something in here to add some rigidity to it, because there is a zipper that runs all the way the length of this tarp. See the zipper there? So what that allows you to do is you can zip up the end, and then you can clip the end shut. There's a clip here and a clip here. Clip them together. That keeps the zipper from undoing. However, if you batten down the hatches a lot, you're going to need a little bit of ventilation. So having this rigidity here, you can unzip to breathe a little. Or if it's not too crazy, you can batten down hatches on most ends and guy out one end here. So most of the fabric, Monolite fabric, is breathable. See here, you can see there's the toggle end. And here's some more view of the zipper that runs down the length of the hammock. Also, they kept the toggles on top. Potentially you could toggle this piece to it like this. That'll open up a gap for breathing. Overall, my first impressions are there are a lot of upgrades to this hammock. Most notably the weight, and keeping the weight down while increasing the width of the hammock to make it the XL size, which does reduce the amount of shoulder squeeze that you can feel inside of the hammock. Because it is wider, that means it's going to take a little bit longer to set up. So there are the trade-offs that come with any hammock. Or like this, the Haven, or any number of the various types of hammocks that you see out there. This is a great option. I think it's all about having options. So if you're somebody who's looking to cut down some weight, and take this out in the woods, this could be something for you. I'm going to take it on my next adventure and see how it does. I always encourage people to do their own unboxing and set it up just before you go out, just so that you know everything works, how it works, something's missing. Put down in the comments below what your thoughts are. If you like the changes and improvements that they've done to this particular system, and if you would buy something like this, or you pretty much treat your game, you like whatever gathered in or hammock system that you're currently in. Let me know down in the comments, and take care, everybody. Until next time, peace.